I'm Mina Malik Hussain, and this is the Coffee Table, and on the World Youth Skills Day, and there seems to be like this incessant conversation about the youths and their skills and empowering youth, youth with a capital Y, and sort of giving them the skills and equipping them to deal with the real world. And I think that this is something, it's an unending conversation, and yet at the same time, we have so many young people who are educated and unemployed. We have so many young people who are not doing well mentally. The world is an increasingly difficult place to be in. It is increasingly competitive. Every time you turn around, something has changed. The last 18 months or so have been spent underneath the boot of COVID, and the lives of our young people change constantly, and we're not even factoring into account things like climate change. The future is so uncertain. So when we're looking at Youth Skills Day, what do young people of today need to be able to deal with their future in ways that are both flexible and resilient and successful? Because I think everybody wants our kids to have better lives than we did, or at least comparable ones. So there are a lot of questions here, and I'm so excited to have this dynamic team joining me on set today to answer all my many questions about the youths. We are joined on set today by Zeeshan Zafar, who is a dual licensed attorney both in New York and in Pakistan. He is a member of the board of directors of the Bargad Organization for Youth Development. Other than his lawyerly work, he has represented Pakistan at Student Leaders Program of the United States Department of State, and he is part of Green Box, which is a youth-driven engagement lab that nurtures sustainability leadership. We are also joined by Noor Imran, who is a program coordinator also at the Bargad Organization for Youth Development. She spent 4 years as a focal person for advocacy and lobbying for the Right Here, Right Now program, the Pakistan chapter of it, with Bargad. She's been part of advocacy efforts at various international forums, including the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, the Youth Forum and CSO Forum in Bangkok, and the Council of Human Rights with the United Nations in Geneva. Lots more. This is just a sort of sneak peek of the many accomplishments. So my guests today, hello and welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
I'm always ultra excited when I have actual people on the sofa these days. The boot of COVID slapping us around. So, Noor, tell me a little bit about Bargad to begin with, because I know that they do a lot of really interesting projects for younger people, for young people. I want to stop saying youth all the time. Trying to find a new vocabulary here from many different kinds of backgrounds. So give me a little sort of sense of what Bargad is up to.
Yeah, so Bargad has been working since 1997.
Yes.
It was started off by young people from Punjab University who felt like there was no space for youth. So it started off as a space for youth, basically. Yeah. And Bargad has taken into account a lot of different aspects of youth development over its course of almost 2 decades now. Yeah. And in that, we have done a lot of policy level work, which includes youth policies. We've helped all 4 governments and AJK and GB to formulate their youth policies, and have them approved, and we're now assisting them with implementation. We only have 3 provinces who have approved the youth policies, but that's something that's on the policy level. On the other side, we work with young people. We try to train them. We're talking about skills right now. We work a lot with soft skills, which is important for them to, be like a complete person when they step into the real world.
Yeah. So what's an example of a soft skill?
So you see, we work a lot with critical thinking. We work a lot with communication skills, how to present themselves.
Yes.
Even with university students, it's quite sad that I see sometimes that, people who've graduated and sometimes even who are doing the masters, they come to sessions like presentation skills and communication skills, and they're amazed by the information that they're given, and they're like, oh, we never learned this in our time at universities.
Yes.
So, which I find sad as well, because what are we teaching them?
It's like oddly shocking, isn't it, that you reach that kind of like postgraduate level of education and you still don't know how to do something as straightforward, to us straightforward, as sort of a presentation. So, Zeeshan, do you think that the sort of first step of this whole kind of it seems like there's a continuing youth crisis. And do you think that education is the first kind of stumbling block here, and that there are clearly gaps in education for young people, which are giving them a certain kind of maybe academic information, but then that academic information seems like it's not that effective when you come out into the real world?
I think it is, as you said, as Noor said, because like growing up, we have heard this phrase, knowledge and wisdom, if I may use Urdu word, talimo tarbiyat.
Yes.
But now we only use education. We only know knowledge, but we do not have wisdom.
Right.
Let me clarify a bit. Knowledge is how to use the gun.
Right.
Wisdom is when to use the gun. So that wisdom when mixed with knowledge will become a complete education. But now what our institutions are doing, I would not like to call them institutions.
Right.
Most of them, they are just factories who are just giving them certificates and like embossing their stamp on it, but they have no real value. These skills, we are talking about skills, I would categorize these skills into two groups.
Right.
One is pre-employment skill. For example, if you are going to become a lawyer, you need communication, you need presentation, you need how to like categorize your case law into different diaries and etc. These are different pre-employment skills.
Right.
But at the same time, there are other human skills, like as Noor said, communication skills, presentation, timekeeping, adaptability. Like these different skills, problem solving, these different skills, unfortunately, it's a very harsh statement, and unfortunately, our youth, they are missing on both of these skills. They do not have the skills needed for the better employment, and at the same time, they do not have those human skills, personal leadership skills, to cope up with the pressure where they do not find a good job. So there's a paradox here, Mina. When children are growing up, the parents they like to shelter their children to make them prepare to enter into a perfect world.
Right.
But when these children, when they enter a world, unfortunately, which is not perfect,
then
they face depression. Then they are socially awkward people. And these are the young people who we are talking about, unemployed youth. Because they do not have that skill set to compete with other people who have had those harsh experiences.
But Noor, do you think that this is also like a strange chicken and egg situation where parents are sending their kids to institutions. Well, sorry, Zeeshan, factories. They're sending their children to institutions, to schools, to universities, because the hope is that their future will be better. And then the hope is that they are being taught things that will help them succeed in life. But then those universities or those schools or those institutions are not giving kids like the whole thing, right? But at the same time, and we have a lot of educators on the show also, and there is this sort of this issue comes up, is that a lot of education now is also a response to the demand of parents. So a lot of institutions that are trying to teach these soft skills, like debate team or sports and sort of extracurriculars, and those are seen as kind of unnecessary, and a lot of parents are more like output driven, and they're like, show me the A's and that's it. So it's sort of like, schools are responding to parents. Parents don't really have such a great idea about what institutions, it's just like, who has a plan here? Neither plans seem to be working.
I think it's like a never-ending race that we've entered into. And I think that universities are responding to the demand by parents, but they're also responding to the situation that there is. Like people now, people who I've graduated with, our main purpose was never to gain an education. The main purpose was to get employed after the education.
Yes, that's so important and horrifying at the same time.
You can't deny the fact that, if you've spent that much money in a private, prestigious institute, you would want to get employed at the end of the day. You will. But at the end of the day, that becomes a pursuit for a different sort of a thing. Because if your end goal is just to get employed, then you probably will not venture into social sciences. You will probably not venture into history-related courses or not learn about literature because you don't see anyone being employed in that field.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
making
people
much
don't,
money at least.
I'm not saying that people don't get employed in that
I
field.
have literature degree. I'm poor.
No, that's the thing. Like that's the concept that everyone has. Like you know, if somebody is doing a degree in, let's say, English,
yes,
we consider that person to have had no other choice than to do something in English.
And also this idea, again, back to literature degree. Look, I'm on TV, I have a great job. Like, look at me, all these hats I wear. But a lot of it, people used to ask me, like, oh, so do you just read books all day long? I'm like, well, yes, but I also write papers and do a lot of academic work. You know,
yeah,
it's a whole discipline.
I think the importance of reading outside of your syllabus has decreased over time.
Yes.
With I think the things that have been added to our culture or how kids are being shaped these days, they've stepped away from all of these things. They don't want to develop as a person, but they want to develop, you know, somebody who can make money. Yeah. And for that, and the situation in our country is that they need to do that. I mean,
and globally also, globally like everybody needs to make money and to have a sustainable life. But then that also kind of leads me to another question, and maybe Zeeshan, you can take this one. Is that I think there's around 40 to 50, if not more, % of young people or kids today will be doing jobs in the future when they're old enough to enter the workforce that don't exist right now. So we can't anticipate training them for a job that doesn't even exist because we don't know what that job is, right? And a lot of educators on the show have suggested that the only way to do that is to have children who have the wisdom that you mentioned and also have a more diverse set of knowledge and skills, because then whatever situation they're in, they'll be able to adapt. So it's like, do you see that happening? Are we sort of addressing this fast enough?
No.
See, Noor is just like,
no. We,
on the side, she's just like, no.
Not at all.
We are not addressing this fact, and we are totally ignoring one huge thing which is coming in near future, that is artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Right.
With this artificial intelligence, there are so many jobs there'll be no more jobs of like these people who just do nothing and just scan something in the grocery store. So I think, again, coming back to my profession, law, we are not trained to read specific law. We are trained to read something which is a law. So the acts and laws, they keep on changing, and then we read a new law, and then we know the philosophy and jurisprudence behind that thing.
Right.
I think like this, with this analogy, we need to train people, we need to train youth with the skill set that they could do something in future, whatever the job they are going to do. Whatever they should add some value to whatever they are doing. And with the human skills that we have provided these young children, I don't think that they can add value to anything if they are not sure about honesty.
You know, that is part of the
and one last thing, why do I say factories? Why do I not say institutions? If you see Ivy League institutions, Harvard, Penn, they ask for personal statement. They ask for your success story and how you have proved leadership skills in your campus, at your campus. You just provide me transcript of what you have scored, and then I'll give you admission, no matter what good university I am.
That's so a really good.
This is the focus of a university. Those people, they are just not focusing on the grades. They say,
want to see who you are as a person also.
What is your success story?
And what are the skills outside of grades that you can bring to the table? Because as we've seen, of course, getting straight A's is no mean feat, but a lot of people are able to do it. So, I don't know, we're going to ponder the A's, take a very quick break, and be back in 1 second. Stay with us. Welcome back to the coffee table and this scintillating conversation about youth skills and empowerment by youth advocates Mohammad Zeeshan, Zafar and Noor Imran, who are both from Bargad and both do all sorts of awesome things outside of that as well. I always love these, you know, sort of, but it's not just a joke, but it's a good example of what well-rounded people can do, right? And then you become somebody who can adjust in many different kinds of situations. And in a way, Zeeshan, isn't that what 21st century skills are about? Because there is a lot of conversation about, you know, 21st century skills. So what are those skills?
I think 21st century skills, first of all, if you ask me, they are skills other than employment skills. They are dealing with depression, taking a failure, coping with the failure. They are like empathizing with a friend who has lost something or lost somebody in this pandemic. This pandemic has taught us that life is unpredictable. Anything and every sort of things can happen to you or your family, and you should just and it has taught us the importance of the community and the society as a whole. And reflecting back on this, I think on the employment sector, there is a need to empathize with your co-workers.
Yes.
People right now, we just go for a job and we just earn money, but there's no concept of society leadership. I think this pandemic has taught us that whatever we are as a society. Because right now, if you have that virus and I do not have that virus, I might get it. The virus will not see that it is something which is just going to a elite class, or which is going to a middle class, or a low class. So it has taught us the importance of society and the leadership that we need to show. I think on the employment side, we need to know that things are changing rapidly. Things are changing rapidly. The IT sector is enhancing. Artificial intelligence is coming. And then we have to deal with other sort of things as well. For example,
or things like disaster management. We're looking at climate change, and we're looking a lot at sustainable development also. And in order to kind of manage, because these are all impending real world, real life situations that, the new young people who are younger than us, I'm older than you guys, so I'm really stretching here. So what kind of, and I know that Noor, you work a lot with sustainable development as well. So how does sustainable development ideas and leadership apply to younger people?
I think that sustainable development is something that needs to be taken more seriously than it already is being taken. Because yes, we signed on to the 2030 agenda and everything, but it's 2021 already.
Yes.
Countries from our region, even Afghanistan and India, and these countries have appeared multiple times already. Our success on those indicators can already be seen, which is very abysmal success that we've achieved so far. And in all of this, that Pakistan does have around 65% of Pakistan's population is still under the age of 30. So that's a lot of young kids who will be entering the job market every single year. And as you said, that people who will be entering, they don't have the job. We don't know the jobs that will be created for them. Like when I was graduating, computer sciences or that was something that we didn't really pay heed to, because we thought that this isn't something that's going to be viable. Right now, we only have jobs for computer scientists. We have jobs for people who are freelancing for US-based organizations, for UK-based organizations, because they're game developers, they're web developers, and all of that. So this is just like, I graduated, 6 years ago? I did my bachelor's. So within these 6 years, people who graduated in accounts and finance have become redundant. Like we get into a bank, we get into investments, and that's it. We don't have any other options. But people with any jobs that you see on LinkedIn, they will be for something else than computer skills. I'm really bad at it, so if I'm saying it wrong, it might be wrong. I consider web developing and game developing almost the same thing. But the thing
I'm sure a lot of people watching this right now are like, no.
Yes, I'm sure.
But those IT skills, and I know that, for example, in the United Kingdom, there is this whole idea of retraining. So it's very common to have trained, like you said, for example, you trained as an accountant, and then you go into the job market, and either you realize it's really saturated, or that the situation has changed so fast, and now you need to develop another skill. And a lot of people retrain. And I've seen people who may have done a really sort of, mathematical degree, but then they retrain in medicine and become nurses. And, I know a writer who is a writer with a literature degree, and now she's a junior doctor with the NHS because she went and did an MBBS. So there's also this idea that you can do different things.
And it's okay to do that. I mean, it should be okay to learn at whatever stage you are. I mean, I just like recently, a few months ago, I asked my organization to help me for professional development. And for that, I enrolled into a course at Center of Economic Research for Pakistan. And that was qualitative and quantitative research. I was like, I know this, but I feel like I don't know enough of what has come out of it so far. Then I did a course on project management as well, which I've already been doing for 6 years now. So, but there is stuff that you can still learn and improve on. And you see, recently I was holding a training and a girl pointed it out that, Miss, we've done digitization, but we haven't done digitalization. And I was like, wait, I don't even know what that means. I had to go back and Google. She was like that, yes, we've made these portals where we've put these documents that, Nadra's online or HEC's online. But we haven't increased the access of people to actually avail those services. We don't have that. Around 60% of the Pakistani population still doesn't have access to internet. So where are we on the digitalization scale? We don't know. And how do you make things sustainable with such a fast-growing world where everything is moving faster than you are?
Quite right.
So it's a battle that we're fighting, I think.
So Zeeshan, there seems to be a gap between good intentions, some good programs, and then people, and all of that actually reaching the intended audience. So I feel like maybe when we look at policies, we do have lots of really good sounding policies in place. But then, like Noor said, that you don't have a computer to access it, or you don't have electricity in the tehsil that you live in, and you are 25 years old and you might have a metric or a BA. So then what's happening here? Like, what are these gaps? How are we going to close these gaps?
We have to see that the resources that we are going to employ for these youth, they should be in line with the country's economy. These institutions like NAFTA, TEFTA, they have a lot of vocational training courses. They have a lot of resources for the young people, but there's a concept of shame attached to these courses. You cannot be an electrician because people will say, okay, he has become an electrician. He graduated from good university. Now what do? You fix air conditioners and fans. There's a shame attached to doing anything of that sort. But if we compare these things, but the same people when they go abroad, they are doing all these kind of jobs. They are working at good famous burger chains. They are driving taxis. They are driving cabs and earning more money. Because there's no shame attached to that kind of work there in US or in other country.
So that means that one big aspect of young people being unemployed in Pakistan is not that there's a lack of jobs, it's just that what kind of jobs are available. And then qualified people, qualified youths don't want to do those jobs.
They do not.
So how do we sort of break that cycle? Because again, like, one does feel empathy, like if your parents worked in houses and they really worked hard to send you to school, and you went to school and you went to college and you have a BA, and in this country it's a big deal to have a college degree, and then you want to work in an office, you want to sort of do computer stuff, you don't want to be an electrician. But then there aren't that many jobs for people in offices. Then the sort of trade-off between, isn't it better to have a steady job than the nature of the job?
I think that's a gap that we will be filling eventually, because you see, as Zeeshan pointed out, that there's a certain shame attached to it.
Stigma
and there is a stigma. I agree, but the thing is that a government of 207 million cannot give the whatever million of young people jobs. The government cannot do this. There will have to be other organizations or other institutions or other parties that have to step in to fill that gap. And sometimes those parties will have to be young people themselves. And that's why, you hear a lot of buzz about entrepreneurship, you hear a lot of buzz about freelancing and all of these all of these things that are coming up. And that's basically the only solution we have left. Because unless and until, you know, not everyone can sit in an office. There are only certain seats that will get filled up for civil services. There are only certain seats which will be for government institutions or the jobs that we want to get into. Or the medical universities or all of that. Or lawyers, in fact. There's certain, and that does not even cover, like, you know, 5% of the people who are looking for jobs. So we will have to facilitate them in other ways. And that's what, like, for example, I'm working currently with Oxfam for their Future of Work program. And Future of Work, what they consider is that, you know, there needs to be an infrastructure in place. The digital policy of Pakistan was approved around 2018. It's a federal policy. And it talks about bridging the gap between rural areas and urban areas. It talks about bringing forward women from rural areas. But what have you done so far to bring forward those rural communities to, you know, match the urban economies? And for that, there needs to be, like you were saying, that how do we build, you know, ask Zeeshan this policy question. And I think that we use this term a lot in the development sector about meaningful youth participation. And that's something I think, because policymakers do need to sit with people who they're making policies for.
Absolutely.
They cannot ask, you know, somebody who's in their 50s what people in their teens should be doing, or what they need. So this gap, there needs to be willingness from the policymaker side as well to listen and to give credit to what their struggle actually is. And also from the young people's side to not just believe in whatever we've heard that, oh, government is not going to do anything, or they're just going to you know, corruption and all that, that's all they do. That's not true. You also have to extend your hand, or you have to bridge that gap somehow. And I think that is in process and will eventually happen. We're not there yet.
So Zeeshan, it seems like entrepreneurship is really sort of the way forward, that if you can't find a job that you want, or there's just so much competition for it, you kind of create your own job, which is fantastic. And there's so many incubators that one hears about for tech, but then it's a sort of two-pronged thing, I think. There's so many co-working spaces that have opened up, and clearly that means that there are a lot of young people who are doing that kind of freelance work or that kind of independent work that has been outsourced to them from abroad. And I'm pretty sure that COVID has maybe increased that amount of outsourcing as well. Like, we've become much more flexible about our idea of a workspace as well.
Definitely, a lot of good things are happening in this country. There are people who have created tech companies, but they are not very popular in Pakistan because they are right now being outsourced by US. There are software engineers who are just working for US companies. There are Hollywood films being made in US, and the entire graphics are being like planned and designed here in Pakistan. But we do not hear from those people.
Why don't we hear from them?
Because
where are you?
We are not the target audience. We are not the target audience. Their skills will not be appreciated here in Pakistan. I think right now, just yesterday, I read somewhere that there were 1,000 jobs in a federal investigative department, and more than 1 lakh people, youth, they applied for those jobs. That is the amount of unemployment in this country. In 2021, labor force survey, it predicted that the unemployment rate would be more than 12%. So I would largely blame on youth as well. We just want to find a secure job. You know, every person in this country, while looking for their bride's husband, they will say they would look for somebody who has a government job, because
a steady job,
a stable income. But private sector, they say, okay, no, this is not fine. There is a stigma attached to these private institutions that the jobs will not be retained in future. And unfortunately, this COVID thing has explained this stigma as well. We people, young people, we want these jobs, but we do not have those skill set to get into those jobs. I see lawyers coming in, being a fresh comer in an office, and when we say, okay, draft this petition, he would ask me how to draft this petition.
And you've been to law school, right?
Exactly.
For like a certain number of years.
In law school, that was not his focus. His focus was to just graduate and get a law degree. As Noor said in the...
And then the law school didn't teach you either. So like, boo on law school also. It's like you, clearly, like you know that somebody is going to have to draft a petition in the office. Why weren't you taught how to do that?
Yes, and...
We're going to take a very quick break at this juncture and come back in just 1 minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the coffee table, where we are continuing to have a really, really relevant and topical and vital conversation about the future of our youths in the workforce and the skills that they need to have with Zeeshan, Zafar and Noor Imran. So Noor, we were talking about this in the break. I love saying that because it always sounds like mysterious things that other people have no access to, which is all true, really, exclusive. Is that one issue also in sort of compared to the West and here, is that we tend to infantilize our young people for a very long time, and then we shunt them out into the world and say, okay, go. You should figure it all out, right? And I want to talk a little bit more about that because it's something that I think everybody who is of a certain age really feels, you know, and it's particularly worse for women as well, because then, you know, it's like get married and then also know everything about everything. But the workforce in the West, by and large, enters the workforce, young people enter the workforce much earlier because there is this sort of culture of an acceptance about doing menial jobs, which are very like low level, very basic, but everybody's doing it. So clearly there is a culture of it's more important to get out there and start becoming independent. And it doesn't really matter so much what the nature of that work is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't see jobs till much later in our lives. Like we graduate at what, 22, 21 early if you're graduating. That's when you start thinking of getting a job. During your university years, the maximum you do is become a teaching assistant. And that's a fine job. Like, you know, you're respected. Okay, it's fine. You're making some money.
But it's also very much an extension of college life.
Yeah, it is. We don't go flipping burgers, like we don't go doing that. God forbid we do that. Our parents would never be able to, you know, get over it. They'd be like, this is what they're doing.
Like you could never drive an Uber in your free time or flip a burger or be like working the cash register at a store.
I mean, I remember my sister when she was young, all she wanted to do was work for McDonald's because she thought she'd get free burgers, but we could never do that. And I think the experience that you get from the service industry, that's invaluable. The people skills that you learn from the service industry is something that you will never be taught. In no university or education institute, they're going to tell you how to deal with people. That you will only understand when you've interacted with people. And I think that in the West, like kids start working when they're in high school, they have summer jobs, they have all that. And they're pool boys, they're cleaning houses, they're babysitting, all of those
mowing
things.
the lawn.
Mowing the lawn or whatever. But that's the thing, that those things are acceptable and they're fine. But when you ask a kid at the age of 22, 23 to enter the workforce and then know everything that they're supposed to know about the job and know how to interact with a boss, know how to interact with their team, they're not going to know that.
How to sort of conflict resolution and in a professional environment. And do you think that that's why a lot of young people go into professional environments with like, and they're just very unprofessional and they're not very good at their job because they just don't know what is expected and they learn the hard way.
And the infantilizing part that you said, that, you know, they were just princes and princesses for their parents just a day ago, and now they're, you know, being scolded by their bosses. It's not something, it's a culture shock for them, to say the least, because they're like, what's happening? It's going to take some time. We don't allow them to have that time. We expect them to just jump the gun and get into it. If they can't, we you know, say that they're spoiled. They're not trying hard enough. But that's not true. Like, you know, this is something that we need to invest in. There needs to be investment in training for a job as well, and allowing them that space to train for that job.
Absolutely. I love how Zeeshan sitting in the corner saying, nodding, really, Busi. He's like, yes, absolutely. Because it's really not fair.
It is.
Just don't know. And who's going to teach you?
What is their motivation? What is the motivation for a person to not work? Because they have a backup plan.
Right.
Their families, the wealth of the family, the properties, they are waiting for him or her. There in America, there's a term known as empty nest. Right. When after 18 years, that child will fly away to his or her hometown, another town, study town, where he will do something and he will earn his living, and he will learn these life skills, how to sustain yourself, how to make a living, how to rent a property, how to do anything. But their process, they start their process, life learning process from 18 years. But now,
so they've had more time to do it.
Exactly.
So by the time they reach a kind of adultish age, they're kind of more cognizant with these things, as opposed to cultures like ours, where it's like till 24, you still have a curfew and you're borrowing your dad's car and you still live like upstairs. And a lot of people spend their whole lives doing that, which doesn't really create a culture where you are, like you're saying, kind of motivated to be competitive in a workforce.
That is the problem which we now have, because they have graduated, they become a good professional, but when they sit at their desk for the first time, they do not have those human skills, basic skills.
So is that where post-employment training comes into play? So then after college, ideally, you should be spending some time in some kind of professional training program, where then you kind of learn how to do all of this?
Yes. I think these summer schools, which the concept of West, the people, graduates, they will go into summer schools and they'll learn new life skills, they'll make new friends. In Pakistan, it's not something which is very popular. In Pakistan, summer will be spent doing nothing, basically.
Right. Which is odd, because for education, we're very much on the clock. And we're really looking to maximize our education time and to do as much as possible in as least time as possible, so that you can get that over with and then get into the workforce and to get a job and start making money. Because this is a very practical consideration in a country we are developing. A lot of families need the money. You need to be able to contribute to your household expenses, and to do that, you might not want to spend 6 to 8 months in a training program.
There should be a concept of post-work training.
Right.
When you have been employed, those lucky ones who have been employed, they should be taught how to do their work. I see judges every day who do not know how to read law. They just passed that exam and now they are civil judges.
Good God, Zeeshan, this is very frightening.
It is. Unfortunately, it is.
But then who's going to provide that training?
Yeah, I mean, that's another
million-dollar question.
It is, because I feel like we're becoming like too critical of our young people as well, that they don't do stuff. That is something that I feel very bad saying, because I interact with a lot of young people on a daily basis. And yes, we have problems, and this is another exclusive discussion that we were having behind the scenes. That we are a poor country. We have to acknowledge the fact that we are a poor country with a huge population crisis. And these are challenges that we're still grappling with. Yes, parents look for their kids to support them, and they have no other option. The middle class especially does not have any other option. And I do believe that the mental health aspect that Zeeshan also brought up, mostly when kids are entering into the workforce, they come with this baggage that, we're the providers now.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, because they've been told their entire lives that they have to take this forward and they have to take care of their parents, which they do. That's our culture, that's our society, that's what that's how we're built. But then you can't really, I don't think you can blame either party in this situation.
But the dilemma is that you want them to be productive and efficient and effective members of the workforce. But in order to do that, there needs to be a certain kind of investment, a certain sunk cost in there to be able to do that, because then it's just low quality, high quantity situation.
Definitely. And I mean, what's the point of, dragging through an MBBS if you don't want to do it?
Yeah.
Like after that, you're going to spend maybe 20 years of your life making money in a profession that you never wanted to go in and being miserable inside.
Yes.
Yes, you had to provide. Yes, you had to do things, but maybe you would be happier if you had made money in something that you liked doing.
Yes.
You may have made less money, but you would have still been able to provide.
And it's so normalized now. And I think especially for men, it's really normalized that you are the man, you have to provide, you have to do a job, which is going to, like you said, a steady, reliable thing that you need to do. And there's like scores, hundreds of men. And I'm sure like most of the people watching this show are like, well, yeah, I'm an engineer. I hate my job. I just do it because I need to make money. But then you'll never be that good at your job, will you? Because and I think there's no heart there.
There are jokes about it, but they also need to be excluded from the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the jokes when they make about married couples that, oh, you got married or you're done for life.
Exactly.
That I hate. But then
we all hate it.
Yeah. But then
no one should make those jokes. Nobody finds them funny.
There are also jokes about, oh, you entered into the workforce, you have a job, you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. No.
Like, why should you have to be? It shouldn't be so normal to be so miserable. And I think, Zeeshan, that's where that sunk cost fallacy also comes in.
So there's a concept for the viewers, sunk cost fallacy, which says that you are doing something and you have done 70-80% of something in between. You know that this is not something for you. It's
and
not your cup of
sometimes the
tea.
only way to find out is to get halfway through it.
Exactly. And then this fallacy says that 80% of the work you have already done will not let you go back, will not let you start from the scratch. But what you should do, the optimum decision at this stage should be, go start from the scratch, because this is not what you will enjoy doing. This is what you are not good at. Do something which you are good at, which makes you happy. Confucius said, like, do something which makes you happy, and you never have to work a day in your life. That is, our families, the culture is that they are pushed, these young children, they are pushed into a job which they do not like. Young children, they are pushed to do MBBS, they are pushed to do FSC, pre-medical. They don't enjoy it. And parents only have one thing in their mind, that he should have a stable income. Income should be the last thing right now in this 21st century. Why? Because this pandemic has taught us that life is unpredictable. Income is not... If you're not happy, if you're not enjoying a job, every day you see people, young people, smiling faces, committing suicides. Because there's a depression, because they are not happy with what they have done. They are not happy with what their job is, what their job description is. So we need to take charge of what we are doing. And that will be the leadership. First, we deal with personal leadership, then we spread it to the community, and then we'll be actual leaders of the country. How many leaders of this country were personal leaders?
Really promising picture also, because it's not just airy-fairy to say that, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you're miserable at work, you just have to do it. Because clearly, the future is one where all the things that we thought about don't hold anymore, right? And those truths have all changed. And if you want to succeed, then the ways to do it have completely changed. And as parents and as older people and as mentors and as young people watching this show even, I think that this whole conversation has been really brilliant, because the future is one that we can't predict, and the future is going to look like nothing any of us have seen. Like, if our lives are so different from our parents, and our parents from our grandparents. So clearly, like, this is how the future is, right? But going into a very specific kind of future with technological advances, with climate change, with the world changing so rapidly, with disease, with all sorts of challenges being thrown at us, we have to really, really look at and re-examine the values that we hold around our ideas of work and success and happiness as well. And all of them are so closely intertwined. Thank you guys for being on the show with me today. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Think outside the box. Look after each other. We'll see you next time on the coffee table. Bye now.